from the front in talking about corporate social responsibility.
2014 से अब तक अपने क्षमता निर्माण कार्यक्रम के द्वारा देश भर की संस्थाओं को ISRN द्वारा 30 से भी ज्यादा सेमिनार्स, वर्कशॉप्स, ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स नाबार्ड, KVIC, बर्ड, CII, PhD, चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स के माध्यम से किया गया।
ISRN feels that we should try and be a bridge between these two sectors to see that the needs of both, which often turn out to be more similar than we think they are, can be met in a sustainable manner. It sounds very complicated and esoteric, but it's actually, when it comes down to implementation, if we can sit and talk to each other across the table, it's not very difficult at all.
अब तक 2500 से ज्यादा कॉर्पोरेट हेड्स और संस्थाओं के प्रमुख एवं उनके वरिष्ठ साथियों को प्रशिक्षित करने का काम किया गया। इन प्रशिक्षण में प्रमुख रूप से NGO मैनेजमेंट, रिसर्च, फाइनेंस मैनेजमेंट, CSR और लीगल कंप्लायंसेस, रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड CSR, प्रपोजल राइटिंग, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, सोशल मीडिया जैसे विषय लिए गए।
2014 से इसके फॉर्मेशंस के बाद से ये नेटवर्क जो बना, तो इस सोच के साथ बना कि जो संस्थाओं को कैसे आगे लाया जाए, उनकी भूमिकाओं को कैसे अहम रूप से वो अपनी भूमिकाओं को लोगों को दे पाएं, और जिस अपेक्षा से संस्थाएं आई हैं वो अपेक्षाएं कैसे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा पूरी हो और लोगों के हित में हो, इस बात को ध्यान में रखकर संस्था के द्वारा काम करना शुरू किया गया। और सबसे पहले देश भर में जितने भी ऐसे स्वयंसेवी संगठन हैं जो ग्रास रूट लेवल पे काम कर रहे हैं, उनके पास जाना, उनको जोड़ना, और ऐसे जो देखते देखते 2 सालों के अंदर ISRN का नेटवर्क 600 से ज़्यादा संस्थाएं देश भर में 28 राज्यों में इसका नेटवर्क है। देश भर में आज हमारी संस्थाएं हमारी सदस्य हैं, और ये सिर्फ सदस्यता नेटवर्क की नहीं है, बल्कि उन सदस्यों को तकनीकी प्रशिक्षण देना, समय समय पर उनकी जो आवश्यकताएं हैं उनको पूरा करना, रिसोर्स मोबिलाइज करना, और दिल्ली में क्योंकि ISRN का ऑफिस है तो देश भर के जितने भी नए प्रोग्रेस जो होती हैं, जो नई सूचनाएं आती हैं, नए
एग्रीकल्चर, जन औषधि स्कीम आदि जैसे आवश्यक मुद्दों को भारत सरकार के विभिन्न मंत्रालयों के साथ मिलकर उठाए और उन पर देश भर में संबंधित लोगों को जागरूक करने व माहौल बनाने का काम किया।
इंडियन सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नेटवर्क जिस तरह का नेटवर्क ये खड़ा हुआ, उसने सारी NGOs को और सोशल सेक्टर के लोगों को ये सोच देने की कोशिश की है कि क्या हम एक पेशेवर के नाते जिस तरह से हमें अपने काम को संगठित करना चाहिए, जिसमें जो सोच होना चाहिए, जो विजन होना चाहिए और जो उसका प्रभाव का जो आकलन होना चाहिए, उस तरह से वो सारा सेक्टर जो है काम कर पा रहा है क्या। तो एक अम्ब्रेला ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के तौर पर ISRN ने अपने आप को स्थापित किया है। और हैंड होल्डिंग की जो कमी नजर आती थी, क्योंकि संगठन काम करने की मंशा भी रखते थे कुछ, लेकिन उन्हें शायद दिशा और दशा जो है, स्थितियां जो है, हालात हैं, जमीनी हकीकत है, उनमें थोड़ा तारतम्य भी कम रहता था। एक अम्ब्रेला संगठन के तौर पर ISRN उभर कर आया है। मैं बधाई देती हूँ पूरी ISRN की टीम को कि जो उन्होंने काम, जो एक पूरा वैक्यूम था इस पूरे देश में, उसको भरने की दिशा में काम कर रहा है ये संगठन।
ISRN ने प्रोजेक्ट लाइफ साइकिल सपोर्ट सर्विस के अंतर्गत कई कॉरपोरेट और संस्थाओं के बीच फैसिलिटेशन का काम किया। मॉडल प्रोजेक्ट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन यानी आदर्श परियोजना करने का निर्णय 2016 में ISRN की रणनीति टीम द्वारा लिया गया, जिसमें कॉरपोरेट और संस्थाओं के साथ कुछ उदाहरण के तौर पर परियोजना शुरू की गई। इसमें प्रमुख रूप से उत्तम स्कूल व मोबाइल हेल्थ यूनिट, स्वस्थ बस्ती, स्वस्थ शहर जैसे कार्यक्रम क्रियान्वित किए जा रहे हैं, जिसमें अभी तक 41 स्कूल और
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and good morning, everyone. Hello, good morning, Mr. Liberto Bautista. Hello, Bhumi. Thank you so much for joining in.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so sorry.
Hello, good morning,
Yeah.
everybody.
So while we wait,
Bhumi and Dr. Batista.
yeah.
Morning. Let me just make sure my lighting is okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's better.
So before we start, I hope that my voice is audible and clear to everyone. In case of any difficulties in joining, please let us know. अगर आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं तो please chat box में yes type करिए. This webinar will also be live streaming on our YouTube handle. Participants who are unable to join here can watch the webinar there. As per schedule, we'll be starting at 5 p.m. IST. We have over 100 plus participants from different parts of our country as well as from international locations. Dear participants, we are delighted to have you join us for today's webinar. To ensure a smooth and engaging experience for all, we kindly request you to follow these simple guidelines. Keep your mics muted unless speaking to minimize background noise. Use the chat box for questions. If turning on your camera, please ensure your background is ethical and appropriate for a professional setting. We truly appreciate your cooperation and look forward to productive and insightful session together. Also, this session will be recorded and will be shared for future reference. So we can wait for another 2-3 minutes till all the participants join.
Hold on.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Anything you would like to add?
I lost my screen from my end. Hold on, because I have two members on my.
Okay, right. We'll hold till the time you connect back.
Okay, can you see me? Can you see me again?
Yes, we can see you. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. So, yeah, we'll be starting in just 1 minute.
Hello, Dr. Bautista. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Gupta. How are you? Good
I'm
to see
good,
you
sir.
again.
How are you? Yeah, nice to see you again, sir. Thank you so much. Hello, Bhumi.
Most welcome.
Good morning from New York, everyone.
Yes.
So, Karishma, we can start.
I would like to repeat again, everybody, please mute your mics and turn off your cameras.
सभी को नमस्ते। मेरा नाम सिद्धार्थ, मैं जन शिक्षण केंद्र अम्बेडकर नगर से हूँ।
Thank you, sir. Welcome. We would like you to mute your mic so we can start with the. Sir, आप अपना mic और कैमरा ऑफ कर दीजिए ताकि हम वेबिनार अच्छे से कर सके। उसके बाद हम लोग we can network.
So instead of telling everyone to mute their mics in between different, so it is better if you
Namaste and good evening. Greetings from Indian Social Responsibility Network. Myself, Dr. Karishma Nayal, Program Officer here at ISRN, and your host for today. Welcome you all today for this impactful webinar. ISRN, along with CoNGO, planned this webinar thinking about how important it is for the grassroots organizations in India to represent and register in global platforms, which has led to this informative and interactive session today. This webinar has taken several days of planning and hard work, and we are delighted to have so many of you join us today. This session is also being live streamed on ISRN's official YouTube handle so that those who couldn't attend in person can still benefit from the knowledge being shared. Additionally, this session is being recorded and may be shared for future reference. This is an international webinar, so it will be in English, but the Hindi transcription will be sent to you after the webinar concludes. The duration of the webinar would be 1 hour. मैं आपसे निवेदन करती हूँ कि आप हमारे साथ इस कार्यक्रम के अंत तक जुड़े रहें और साथ ही अपने माइक्स म्यूट पे रखें और वीडियो बैकग्राउंड्स को एथिकल रखें। आप सभी का एक बार फिर से इंटरनेशनल कोंगो वेबिनार में स्वागत है। हम आशा करते हैं कि इस वेबिनार के जरिए हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों तक पहुंच सके। So without further ado, I would now like to welcome Mr. Ashish Mansharamani. Mr. Ashish is the champion of green economy and currently serving at ISRN as Associate Director. He completed his MPhil in climate change of the polar regions at the Scott Polar Research Institute, Cambridge University, UK. And since that, he has been working in the field of SDGs, environmental policies, climate action, green economy, and study of environmental laws. Prior to joining ISRN, he also has worked in various capacities at Wipro Tech, Pranab Mukherjee Foundation, Lakshmi Mittal Family South Asia Institute at Harvard University, to name a few. He has also co-authored 2 books on green economy and climate with democracy. I would like to welcome him and hand over the session to Secretary remarks. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Karishma, and thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Liberator, for joining us early morning. So I would like to set up the status right now that we at ISRN are very grateful to all of you to join us for this wonderful webinar, interactive webinar on the CoNGO collaboration, and also with the information related to ECOSOC status to be provided by UN. So just before that, I'll just give you a brief background about ISRN, Indian Social Responsibility Network. It's registered under the Indian Trust Act of 1882, established in 2014 as a not-for-profit multi-dimensional facilitation network, and it's in the domain of corporate social responsibility and the sustainable development. We've been certified as a great place to work for 2 consecutive years, 22, 23, 23, 24. And right now, we've been working in the non-profit sector by the Great Place to Work. ISRN also is working to ensure that the attainment of sustainable development goals is there, bringing together all the voluntary organizations, NGOs, corporates, and governments on the development agenda. Specialized in capacity building, research development, and model project implementation, ISRN is an organization with expertise and experience in delivering a complete spectrum of solutions from project conceptualization to execution in education, health, and agricultural sectors. We participated at the 68th and the 69th sessions of the UN Commission on the Status of Women at the United Nations headquarters in New York earlier this year also, and also at the COP29 event of UNFCCC held at Baku, Azerbaijan last year. Indian Social Responsibility Network is honored to be associated with Social Stock Exchange, which is a segment under the National Stock Exchange as their knowledge partner. Moving forward, I will give you a brief glimpse. These are a few of the images of the participation at the UN CSW 68. And then thereafter, we have the next image on UN CSW. And thereafter, we have 29 Baku. Moving forward, our vision and focus is on to create a platform, a sustainable network of NGOs, corporates, and government institutions to achieve the holistic development of the country. And that's the reason we all are here. And ISRN actually is developing a platform for integrated development of the unreachable with a multi-stakeholder pathway for the sustainable development goals. Now, so our thrust areas are research and development, model project implementation, and capacity building. And one of them is important today. That's the reason we are holding this webinar. Moving forward, I just want to talk about, that in the capacity building, we work on webinars. We have right now been able to have 10 webinars in the last 1 year, garnering over 5,000 views. We've had training workshops where we have been right from inception, about 30 training workshops. at which about 4,000 participants from 1,000 NGOs have joined in. And until recently, our latest series, the NGO Clinic podcast, we've been able to have 14 podcasts taken place, accounting for about 4,000 views in the last 1 year or so. In the research development, we've been working with evidence-based analysis of the critical subject, thorough studies through baseline, midline, and endline surveys, impact assessments of agriculture, education, environment, and health and social sectors, and project documentations of the national and international projects, and compilation of best practices has been our domain. We've been working with the G20, we've been working with Ministry of Culture, we've been working with the Madhya Pradesh government, we've been working with projects related to Ministry of Finance, and we've been able to have various research documentations provided as part of the journey. Moving forward, we're part of the education segment. It's called the Educate Uttam School Project, which is basically a model school project. We've been able to cover about 53 schools, 14,000 students, and about 500 teachers across multiple states. We've been able to, take care of rural and urban schools through learning tools, sanitation, clean energy, safe drinking water. Moving forward, in the health, we've been working at family planning and intimate partner violence. We've been working for mobile health units in rural and urban rural areas, comprehensive primary healthcare camps with the CSRs. We've been working with Momentum project of routine immunization right from COVID-19 and various others, and then Nandhar Anganwadi projects and the promoting equity and reproductive health access projects. So moving forward, I just want to take just one more minute. This is the image of our projects. Moving forward, I just want to talk about agriculture and environment. Just one line that we've been working with farmer producing organizations across various states. And right now we've been able to reach out to about 35 FPOs and 46 FPOs across various states. And also with the environmental project, we've been working with documentation and also baseline studies with Rotary and various other projects. Thank you so much for listening to me. I move forward and I talk about today's webinar, which is the International CoNGO webinar, Unlocking the Global Opportunities for NGOs. Here, we'll focus on exploring the UN ecosystem and its opportunities, unlocking the benefits of ECOSOC and CoNGO accreditation, expanding your global presence with the impact, and fast-track your sustainable development goals journey with expert guidance. And we know other than that, we'll have great experts here on the webinar. I welcome Ms. Bhumi Sharma, Climate Council Lead, Indian Youth Diplomacy Forum, who is the moderator. Welcome, Ms. Bhumi. Ms. Bhumi is a graduate student at Columbia University's Climate School, specializing in climate policy, global governance, and sustainable development. She's a research assistant at the Columbia Center on Climate System Research and has worked closely with the United Nations for over 3 years. Ms. Bhumi served as a liaison for the UNFCCC's 19th Conference of Youth in Baku, Azerbaijan, alongside COP29 last year. She currently leads the Climate Council at the Indian Youth Diplomacy Forum and was named the Max Thabiso Climate Ambassador by the World Bank in 2024, advocating for the youth-led climate action on global platforms. So welcome, Ms. Bhumi, and over to you to take this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashish ji. Good evening, everyone. Namaste, everyone, and a warm welcome to all participants joining us today from across India and internationally. I'm Bhumi Sharma, and I'm honored to moderate today's International CoNGO webinar on enhancing Indian civil society organizations' global engagement and securing UN ECOSOC consultative status, leveraging CoNGO support. India has one of the largest and most diverse civil society sectors, yet our presence in multilateral UN spaces remain limited. Today's session focuses on changing that by exploring how Indian NGOs can secure ECOSOC consultative status, become active members of CoNGO, and meaningfully shape global policy discussions. Many of us work locally, but think globally, and the UN system offers tools, platforms, network that can amplify our work. The ECOSOC consultative status is not just a title. It's an invitation to speak at UN events, submit statements, attend high-level forums, and most importantly, join global policy conversations and shape them. Platforms like CoNGO exist to make that pathway more accessible. And today we are going to learn how to do that. It's now my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Liberato C. Bautista, who is the president of CoNGO, the Conference of NGOs in Consultative Relationship with United Nations. Dr. Bautista is one of the few leaders to have served 3 terms in this role. He's known worldwide for his advocacy across human rights, ethics, civil society, religion, and sustainable development. His academic and policy work, including his latest co-edited volumes on human rights and freedom of expression, offers both intellectual depth and real-world clarity. He brings decades of experience working with and within UN system, and we are incredibly fortunate to hear from him today. Thank you so much for joining us and taking out the time to share your experience with us. The floor is yours, Dr. Bautista.
You can
You're
share
on
the
mute.
screens. So you're on mute.
Okay, I'll make sure. And let me see if I can share my screen and make sure that it's the. There are too many versions of my PowerPoint, and I've been shuttling between one and another. And hold on.
Completely relatable. Take your time.
Sorry to waste precious minutes here. Okay, I found that.
No, it's completely okay. I completely relate. Take your time.
Let me share my screen. And of course, it's showing another screen rather than my. Okay. It says I cannot share my screen.
I think the organizer will have to give access to Mr. Bautista to share his screen.
Charisma?
Are you able to see my screen?
Now?
No, not yet.
No.
Okay, well, that's not the screen.
Yes, now we can see.
Now we can see it.
We can see.
But it's the PowerPoint that I wanted to share, and it's not. It says you do not have permission to share.
Sir, it will be in one of your windows, so you'll have to you'll have to find your PPT in one of the windows.
Or what you can do is just like quickly email that to Karishma maybe, and maybe she can present. So it's also easier for you to focus on just explaining the process, free from presenting.
This is. I'm so sorry for wasting as precious minutes.
So that's completely fine. Or what you can do is there will be an option that you can share your window. And the window pane there will be in one of the PPs you'll find your PPT.
I'm more familiar with Zoom sharing, but not on a Google Meet. That's why I'm apologies for that one.
Dr. Bautista, you can see it in the below. In the screen, there is a one arrow.
No. That's what I use.
Yeah.
So I stopped presenting. Let me see. It shows.
So you can put your PPT on screen share, and then you can you can put your PPT on slideshow, and then you can screen share it. So or you can mail your PPT to Ashish sir and then we'll do it from our end.
Yeah, I think that's
Wow.
the easiest option.
Can I just email you my
Yes, please.
document?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
I think let's do that.
Yes.
Hang in there then. Oh wow, this is
That's completely all right. Maybe in the meanwhile, you can tell us more about yourself and your background and what inspired you to do this work and how you joined CoNGO while you're sending that email. But also, if that's too much multitasking, we can just wait.
So for the time being, I think Bhumi, you can tell us your experience there at the university, how it's going.
That completely works. I am in my final semester, final week of my second semester, and I have exams going on. So it's pretty busy and stressful right now, but I'm prepared and I'm feeling hopeful about it. Um, I'm also feeling a little homesick and want to come back to India soon to meet my family. But other than that, it has been a very enriching experience being here in New York and studying at an Ivy League institution, um, especially studying a subject which is really close to my heart. And my name is Bhumi, which means earth. And sometimes I feel maybe I was destined to study climate. Maybe my mother already knew when I was born that, oh, yeah, one day she's going to work on climate change for the world. And it makes me motivated. Yeah.
Bhumi, in the meanwhile, you can share in brief your experience with the UN, especially as you participated previously as a vice president in Yango. So can you explain the process and especially for the voluntary organization point of view? Just give you the tips. In the meanwhile, we share the screen of Dr. Bautisto.
Yeah, so I have been volunteering with the UNFCCC Youth Constituency for the past 3 years, and I am part of their global coordination team. And last year, I had the fortune to lead the organization of the UNFCCC 19th Conference of Youth in Baku, Azerbaijan, which was a great opportunity. We had 400 plus members from around the world joining us. This space is open to all young people from all around the world, and everyone can join Youngo. The simple step is just to go to the Youngo website and fill up the membership form, and then you receive a welcome email with all the rest of the details. The only catch is that it's only for people under the age of 35. But we also have other constituencies within UNFCCC which people from any age can join, like bingo, there's women and gender constituency, and so on. I have also been the climate ambassador, youth climate ambassador for World Bank last year, and it was also a very enriching process. We have climate ambassadors for each country. I was the ambassador for India, and during that process, we get capacity building sessions from the World Bank network on how to enhance the youth participation in climate change dialogue from our country. So that's what motivated us to start the Indian Youth Diplomacy Forum with the help of my other colleagues in India. And now I'm leading the Climate Council for the Indian Youth Diplomacy Forum. That's another very great platform for young people of India to join and collaborate on international discussions. We have a lot of different segments. I lead the climate segment, but we also have a segment on economics. We have a segment on health and well-being. We have a segment on culture and sports. So it's a very wholesome, youth-focused organization which targets to include more Indian youth in the global discussion. I think we're
Okay,
able
so
to present now. So
yes, yes, Bhumi. Now we can invite
Thank you so much,
Dr.
Bhumi,
Baudis to.
for sharing.
yeah,
All right.
Dr. Baudis, the floor is
Thank,
yours.
thank you very much for your patience. And my apologies because I have 2 slides that I created precisely just for ISRN. You will see in the slide that you are now seeing a KHU Global Collaborative. These are my lectures in graduate school. I teach as well in a graduate school in Korea during the summer, during summers, I should say. And I don't want to change the slide again, and we will lose precious minutes. So why don't we proceed? Let's what I would like and move on to the next slide. I would like first to thank you all at ISRN, particularly to Mr. Santos Gupta, your CEO, and Mr. Ashish Mamsharamani for the invitation to address one of a series of webinars or NGO clinic. I have with me the brochure of ISRN, and it shows the width and breadth of the work that you do, and the breadth of the substantive issues and the width of the geographic scale of the coverage of what you do. And I thank those who have joined us today for honoring me with your presence. I hope there's the talking points that we've been exchanging back and forth with ISRN are quite extensive. I did email to ISRN this morning a copy of a briefing session that was just held on Tuesday this week. Was it? Yeah, Tuesday this week by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDESA Civil Society Office, on how to apply for NGO ECOSOC status, and so the nitty-gritty details of the application process, I would rather cede that to the UNDESA briefing, but certainly in the Q&A, I would like to address as much as possible your questions on any number of the talking points that were raised as key areas that participants today may be interested in having. On your slide, on this slide, you're seeing you have Mr. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, speaking about the importance of civil society, the importance of non-governmental organizations, not only within the UN ecosystem, but the larger ecosystem of multilateralism. I'd like to just go in the middle of his sentence where it says, where parts of civil society are considered a threat, we need a principled mindset and to engage constructively. Where civil society actors form an indispensable part of the landscape of collective action, we must design and implement our programs with broad participation in mind. And he's talking here of with broad participation of NGOs, CSOs, and CSMs. Now, you've noticed me use the 3 terms: NGO, non-governmental organizations, CSO, civil society organizations, and third, critical social movements. In my academic teaching, I make sure that the differences among the 3 are nuanced, and then what are the similarities? They're quite different because critical social movements are your movements on the ground, peasant movements, labor movements, and they are the ones that do not necessarily have the luxury to travel to New York, to Geneva, to Vienna, or anywhere else a UN conference is having. They are troubling themselves with tilling the soil, making sure that there is food on the table, and if there's no irrigation, and if there's no fertilizer, organic or otherwise, then they would petition their local government units, etc. So the critical social movements are people affecting their own lives, and if their lives are not any better because their governments are insensitive to what they do, then they petition those government units. They petition, they look for private sector to help them undertake the change on the ground. So compared to non-governmental organizations, very structured, of varying structures of engagement at local, national, regional, or international level. The more sophisticated ones come to the United Nations, seek a consultative status, and I think that is what we would like to address. Next slide, please. My disadvantage now is because I'm not scrolling my PowerPoint slides. I don't even know what comes next, but let's work on that given the situation. Kofi Annan, a former Secretary General of the United Nations, it's my bias. He is my most beloved Secretary General of the United Nations. He is the most beloved among many, if not majority, of civil society organizations. And this is a famous quote, or a quote that I like the most. He said, "The truth is that NGOs are working with us everywhere." The width and breadth, again, of who are on this call expresses that everywhere. Alongside us whenever crisis strikes, right behind us in advocating for women's rights, international criminal justice, and action on global warming. And often far out in front of us in identifying new threats and concerns. This is certainly one of your most important roles. You can often see what is not yet visible to diplomats and think what still seems unthinkable to governments and their officials might not yet be able to admit. What you say may be unpalatable today, but often becomes the conventional wisdom of tomorrow. So NGOs have the capacity to presage what's the future, which governments may not yet want to touch. And that's the importance of non-governmental organizations and their presence at the United Nations, at multilateral bodies, at regional institutions and regional mechanisms and national mechanisms. The quote from Mr. Annan underscores this. Next slide, please. You may ask me, Bumi was introducing herself earlier, and let me give you my background. This is my 46th year in NGO work, 46, more than 4 decades, and I have always been in my paid job. It's always been related to international affairs or international relations and related to NGO work. And if you see in my slide, and I'll tell you the importance of saying this, because I am the main representative of a religious organization called the United Methodist Church. I represent the United Methodist Church worldwide, and this is my 28th year doing that. And I am the president of CoNGO, as the introduction said, and by the time I finish my presidency this coming October, I will have served 11 years, the longest serving president in the 77 years of CoNGO. CoNGO was organized in 1948, around the same time as the birth of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So many of the religious leaders during that time were part of the creation of CoNGO. CoNGO was created around the same time as the Federation of Red Crescent and Red Cross Societies was created around the same time as the World Federation of United Nations Associations. And so, but let's see if the next slide explains what I want to do. You may not know that the inaugural assembly of the United Nations was held at the Methodist Central Hall at Westminster in London. In January of 1946, a little over 2 months after the creation of the United Nations in 1945 in San Francisco, the United Nations did not have a building. Well, it had the League of Nations had a building in Geneva, but it did not have the building that is available to accommodate the huge delegation of newly decolonized countries and the great powers that have just prevailed in World War II, and the Methodist Central Hall at Westminster in London provided that space. And for those of you who have been to the General Assembly in New York, the Methodist Central Hall resembles that, and therefore the architectural import of the Methodist Central Hall captured the imagination of the architect of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Next slide, please. That's the view from my office. That's the United Nations headquarters. Next slide, please. That's the church center for the United Nations. That's a United Methodist building just across the United Nations. And for those of you who have attended United Nations meetings in New York, this building is critical to the support for non-governmental and civil society events. As Methodists, we only allow, hang in there, as Methodists, we only allow tenants for this building that have work related to the United Nations. So many NGOs with consultative relationship with the United Nations have offices at this building. Next slide, please. Well, that's just a view of the United Nations in spring. About 2 weeks ago, you can still see New York with cherry blossoms there. But I like this quote, both in two versions by Winston Churchill of the UK and Dag Hammarskjöld, former Secretary General of the United Nations. The United Nations is not designed to get us to heaven. It is designed to stop us from going to hell. I think I want from the get-go that any NGO hoping to get a consultative status with the United Nations orient their expectation to the fact that the United Nations is a very small organization compared to multinational corporations. Any top 100 multinational corporation you can name would have more money than the United Nations. The environmental department of the city of New York, or the fire department of the city of Tokyo, Japan, has more money than the entire United Nations. And yet we expect the United Nations to address climate change, to address women's rights, to address global pandemics, to address precisely what you're seeing, to implement sustainable development goals. And yet today, the funding of the United Nations is shrinking. Attacks on the multilateral system is increasing. And therefore, we say that non-governmental organization, the expertise, that's exactly what the United Nations is small, and yet it is a cog trying to stop the world from full-blown disasters and conflicts, and trying to stop it from disasters, and that's compared to what other activities in the world. The United Nations in this slide is receiving $12 billion, $2 per person, and yet official development assistance and, for example, the cost of the Iraq war, cost of farm subsidies, or monies going to military are far bigger. Now, that's the General Assembly, and I think one our major focus today is ECOSOC, and you see that below the General Assembly. It's one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. Let's see what we can see in the next slide. Move that along. Keep going. All right. So let's go. That's the entire universe of the UN system. We will not focus on that. Let's move on. That's the ECOSOC. And the Economic and Social Council, when you have the chance, look at the Charter of the United Nations. And in the Charter of the United Nations, which is the Constitution of the United Nations, the highest, the principal document that governs the work of the United Nations, it provides in Article 71 of the Charter of the United Nations, it mandates the United Nations to make arrangements for non-governmental organizations to participate in the work of the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Officially, the term NGO started with the use of such term at the United Nations. So for purists, and there are many times when I'm a purist, for purists, I use the term NGO as those organizations that orient their work with the multilateral system, the regional mechanisms, etc., compared to CSOs. CSOs are the far wider universe of civil society formation. CSOs are far more diverse. There are only 6,494 NGOs with consultative status. As of December 31, 2024, there are only 6,494 NGOs with NGO status. How many CSOs are there? Maybe there are 10,000 at least in India, maybe even 20,000. With so many groupings in India, CSOs are almost in every village, and therefore, and out of the 6,494 NGOs with consultative status at the UN, only 142 have general consultative status. CoNGO is one of the only 142 NGOs in consultative status. Most of the 6,000 NGOs have special consultative status, and a few more have roster consultative status. We have that in our talking points here. Let me linger a little bit there. An NGO with general consultative status means that you, in your application, has demonstrated your focus on almost the entirety of the alphabet soup of NGO, of UN activities. That you're addressing how aphids affect the leaves of plants, letter A. How biodiversity is important, how climate change is important, how diversity, we're only A, B, C, D at the moment, and then you go all the way to letter Z in the area of insects, zygotes, etc., whatever. So if you apply for a consultative status and you want to demonstrate your will, well, you also have to demonstrate how many activities of the UN within the alphabet you're addressing. Most likely, you are addressing A, B, L, M, N, Q, R, Z. Then you will get a special consultative status. If you're a very specialized NGO dealing only with one area of work, they may give you roster consultative status. Let's move on. I would rather that I entertain Q&A. That's just to simply say that anyone wanting to participate in a consultative relationship with the UN must demonstrate precisely the nature of what consultation is. when you apply for a consultative status at the UN, what you are saying is, we are ready to consult you, UN. We're ready to collaborate with you, the UN. We're ready to cooperate with you, UN, because we bring an expertise that contributes to resources that you already have, or that contributes to resources that is dwindling within the UN, but we are contributing voluntarily our expertise. And then, but it's the consultative process is a two-way process. What that means is that when you seek consultative status at the United Nations, you not only bring an expertise, you are actually also requesting the United Nations that you as an NGO have an access to its premises, you have an access to its meetings, you have an access to the conferences, you have an access to the diplomats, which you don't see in New Delhi, but when you go to New York, you can just meet them along the hallways of the United Nations. And India to the UN, can I have a moment with you? You may not even see your ambassador in India at home, but at the UN, they are within access. That's why the consultative status, if for anything else you forget everything what I said, just work on this formula. The United Nations, the consultative status is a way for NGOs to have an access to the promises and the premises of the United Nations. Access to the premises means access to the substantive discussion at the UN, like Bhumi preparing herself for academic studies in climate. You would perhaps want to have access to the climate change, climate discussions of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the COP meetings annually. That's an access to the premises. But you can access that online, but you want access to the diplomats, to the professional staff. That's access to the premises, access to the physical meetings that happen in the hallways of offices in New York, in Geneva, in Vienna, in Nairobi, in Bangkok for UNESCA. Let's move on to what is an NGO. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Let's see what else is next on screen.
Dr. Bautista, what do you think is the process? You have explained how important it is for NGOs to join the UN and get that accreditation status. So what is the process to achieve that status? And those, like you differentiated between 3 different statuses. So maybe you can just walk us through on how to achieve those.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And my statements are based on and rather than, now I'm not saying not precision, but I would encourage you to look at the website. I mean, the link to the webinar that was held 3 days ago by the UNDESA, which gives you far more detailed process now. The application process for consultative status, and by the way, I wanted to make sure, in the name of CoNGO, we say consultative relationship, because there are at least 3 ways to be accredited and related to the United Nations. Mm-hmm. The highest relation with the United Nations is the consultative status. Mm-hmm. This other relation with the United Nations is called the associated status, and therefore an NGO can apply with the Department of Global Communications or an associated status. The consultative status you apply with the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. So you're dealing with 2 departments, DESA for ECOSOC, BGC for associated, and then there's a 3rd status. It's called observer status. If you are dealing with children's rights, then you may want to seek an observer status with UNICEF. If you're dealing with labor, trade unions, you may want to seek an observer status with the International Labor Organization, ILO. If you're dealing with climate change, you may want to have an observer status with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change based in Bonn. So if you are in scientific and educational endeavors, an observer status with UNESCO based in Paris. So those three statuses have their own or processes. The application for ECOSOC status is very straightforward. It's on the website of UNDESA, and it's a question and answer form. What is the name of your organization? When was it organized? What is most important nations to see when you're applying is the clarity with which you convey to them. Now, in the in the website, in the webinar, on the chat, when you open that, and don't do that now, do that later. The application people, the people who receive the application, said that you can be very elaborate on what you, in describing what you do, and that has its advantages. One advantage would be they will have the better determination if you qualify for general. Now remember, for all the 80 years of the United Nations, only 42 NGOs have gotten general consultative, and CoNGO is one of them.
Yeah, that's true. So from what I understand, we need so for example, for UNFCCC, I know that the NGO which is applying for the observer status needs some work, background, and experience in environment and climate change. So how does it work for the UN ECOSOC and DGC? Do people need specific experience on sustainable development, or it can be across any development goals? It can be women and gender, or youth, or agriculture, or job. So how does it work?
Any number, all of those substantive issues that you mentioned are within the multilateral universe, if you will. What I wanted to impress, because we don't have a long time to discuss this, I'll pick on the most important and more. When I said you can describe, don't be too ambitious in describing what you do, because in the application interrogation, the more you tell them what you do, the more they'll come back to you and say, tell me really what you're doing. And governments have honed their ears for things that may be critical of what they do. So tell them enough that catches their imagination, long enough. Tell them as short as possible so that their imagination does not go wild, and then you get your consultative status, but enough to say, I'm really aiming for special consultative. Now, the general, as I said, is only 142. And you may want to be a general consultative NGO. You want to describe the A to Z of what you do, and then Libya will come to you and say, what did you say on this one? And then Libya may say, no, we don't recommend you for. Or you may have said something about this, the relationship of India and the United Kingdom in the colonial times. And so you say that the historic legacy of slavery, colonialism, racism is strong enough where any country that has colonized someone will come back to you and say, can you explain that a little bit more?
That's true. And usually are these questions sent out through email, or do they have an interview process?
Twice a year, NGOs, a committee of NGOs, a special committee, and they screen all the applications. It's a governmental committee, a committee of and they are the final authority, not the final authority, they are the authority that looks at the application, and then they decide who to propose, who to approve, and bring to session of ECOSOC in July. So they meet in January, and then they meet in June. They also meet late in November for unfinished business. May 30 this year. You hear that from the webinar link that I gave you. So not to discourage you if you have not sent in your application. For those of you who want to send an application, it is not to discourage you, but I want you to know, according to the UN on Tuesday, if you're applying now, your application will only be entertained in the first meeting of 2026.
Yeah.
And to not, just to tell you, your application may be approved in 6 months, it may be approved in 1 year, but there are applications today that have been there for the last 5, 6, 10 years, and they have not been approved.
I see a very good question in the chat, and it also builds on what I was going to ask next. Also, to all the participants, you can drop your questions in the chat box because so my question is related to what Mr. Gopal asked in the chat. What is the purpose on working with UN? But I also want to add.
I think we can stop scrolling the screen. We just,
yeah, awesome. So I was asking that how do, like, we have understood the process of how do NGOs run, but how do NGOs join CoNGO? Is there a process to get associated with CoNGO? And if yes, what are the advantages of joining CoNGO?
yeah, I want to be precise in the language, Bumi. NGOs don't join the UN. The UN is a club of governments.
Yeah, that's true. I know.
I don't want to. I didn't want to shoot down. You know, the highest expression of what we want. There are, of course, NGOs that would like to create another chamber within the United Nations where we, the people, really matter rather than just being appendages. But there are other ways of saying that, and I quoted Mr. Guterres and Mr. Kofi Annan, Secretaries General of the UN, saying we are a vital and a critical component of the multilateral system. We are oilers of the UN wheel that makes it move. And yet we don't usually see that, and that is why we struggle and we fight for our space in the multilateral system. So that may be what you meant, that we want to join the UN in pursuing the objectives of the UN for human rights and human dignity, for sustainable development, for peace and security, for international law, for law to be the governing principle for the relations of nations, etc. So, give me again the question.
Yeah, my question was, how do CSOs or NGOs get associated or join CoNGO?
All right. Now, I want you to notice that the name of our organization includes the word United Nations. It has a very special, we consider it special because when you apply for a consultative status, you're not allowed to use the word United Nations. You will be referred to the legal department. That is why any NGO, NGOs with consultative status are not allowed to use any of the United Nations symbols, even the word United Nations. Ashish and Santos, my apologies if I'm using your first names. You're friends to me now, so I hope you don't mind the first name basis. That's why I alerted you of not attaching the word UN to CoNGO, but for the 77 years of CoNGO, it has been an interlocutor interface, and the membership in CoNGO, CoNGO is a membership organization, and it's a paid membership, $330 annually, or for full members, or $130 for associate members. Full members are NGOs with ECOSOC consultative status. All other NGOs with associated and observer statuses are associates. And that is what makes CoNGO strong, because more than 500 NGOs that are full members means they are 500 plus NGOs with consultative status. So the power of consultation, of collaboration, of cooperation of more than 500 NGOs with consultative status. And we do not have a criteria for membership except showing us the proof that you have been granted a status by the UN. And that is why the membership of CoNGO is diverse. You have the World Muslim Congress, you have the World Jewish Congress. Okay? So both of these organizations, and Christian organizations, Buddhist organizations, Hindu organizations, they all come to CoNGO not because of the differences they bring, but because of the common orientation, which is we want to participate at the UN, and we want to pursue with the UN the objectives for which it was organized.
That is amazing. But I understand that it's collective strength in being part of CoNGO. But what would be an advantage for an individual organization taking up that membership for CoNGO? Like, what are some perks or advantages of NGOs joining CoNGO?
All right. So the alphabet soup of UN work is diverse, and the NGOs gathered around it, meaning the members, may only bring specific letters to the alphabet. And when they go to the UN, they may not be accredited to a meeting on biodiversity because the work that they do is not directly related. Within CoNGO, the work is done by way of the NGO committees. The NGO Committee on the Status of Women, Santos and Ashish spoke Ashish spoke in his preliminary remarks today. The participation of ISRN at the meeting of the Commission on Status of Women. The organization of the civil society event is handled by the NGO Committee on Status of Women. It's a CoNGO committee. It organized more than 500 side events. That is only one of the 32 NGO committees of CoNGO: NGO Committee on Status of Women, NGO Committee on Human Rights, NGO Committee on HIV/AIDS, NGO Committee on Older Persons, NGO Committee on Rights of Children, NGO Committee on Disarmament. Name the entire gamut of UN work, there is an NGO committee. So the advantage to joining CoNGO would be that your NGO may be focused on nuclear science, atomic energy, and yet you are also interested in the ethical dimensions of nuclear science. You may be interested in the effect of climate change on women. So you put together women and gender and climate change, and that's so the interchange that is not immediately possible within the UN official venues may be possible within a CoNGO framework.
Thank you about that. We also had some questions which were submitted to us in advance. So Mr. Sunil from Rural and Urban Development Youth Association would like to know how CoNGO supports capacity building for these newly accredited NGOs who joined CoNGO. Like, do you understand the process, or how do you shape these discussions?
So CoNGO is an NGO, but it is an NGO of NGOs.
Yeah.
So the one of the question, a corollary question to the good question just raised is, well, but you are an NGO. Why should I tell you? Yeah. And again, so if you're joining CoNGO, you're joining one of the only 142 NGOs. There are times when a UN meeting, they need a speaker. And I have been privileged to be asked to speak rather than me wanting, applying to be a speaker. So, and so the collective voice of NGO. So CoNGO would email all its members and say, we have been asked to address the UN on this matter. What do you want me to say? So the power of collective voice. A small farmers organization in may apply to speak and they may not get heard and they may not be approved to speak. But a collective listing of endorsements to a joint statement may include them, may include 100, may include 200, may include 300. And here's another information for you. If you have a general consultative status, you can send by email the statement at the UN, and the UN will publish it for you and translate it for you in UN languages. And you are allowed, I think, 500 or 800 words to submit. If you are a consultative status, you're allowed 300 words, or these are not precise at the moment, but you have to reproduce your own copy and you have to distribute it yourself. If you have a roster status, forget about it. You don't have the right to speak unless requested to, and you cannot circulate your statement. Only consultant general and special. So by joining CoNGO, you can have the name of your organization attached to CoNGO's statement, and it will be circulated. So that's just one way of that access.
That sounds great. In the interest of time, I'll just take one last question, and it's by Dr. Rita from ISRN. How can ISRN propose international programs or webinars in collaboration with CoNGO? Is it possible to just collaborate on events and webinars on such important topics with CoNGO without having a membership?
Okay, so there are two ways to joining CoNGO, and joining CoNGO as CoNGO means that you must be a member of CoNGO. In other words, we only when CoNGO as such holds an event, we will only allow co-sponsorship by its members. But the NGO committees of CoNGO allows membership by any NGO anywhere in the world. And so you may not be a member of CoNGO, but you can be a member of the NGO Committee on Status of Women. You may be, the $330 I know is a very big amount, and it could be the annual budget of a small NGO in a rural village. But that work of CoNGO is very specialized. But the work of the NGO committees, the NGO Committee on Status of Women is $50 membership fee. The NGO Committee on Financing for Development is $40. There are NGO committees that require $30. The only difference, the work of the NGO committees are divided into two. They meet once a month. They may have 2.5 hours of the meeting. The first 1.5 hours is dedicated to a substantive issue. So if your committee is on financing for development, the 1.5 hours of that meeting may be dedicated to climate financing or carbon trading. That's a substantive issue of the committee. The latter part of their meeting is the organizational meeting. In the substantive meeting, any NGO, member of CoNGO or not a member of CoNGO, can participate, can co-sponsor, etc. The other half of the meeting, which is election of officers, membership dues, what is the next topic, that is only reserved to paid members.
Okay.
And you'll understand why.
Yeah,
So
I understand.
you are not a paid member. You cannot be an officer of CoNGO. You cannot be an officer of its committees, but you can participate in any of its substantive activities.
All right, so it's a very inclusive process. You just cannot hold positions, but you can still voice your opinions even though you don't have the resources to pay. That's very good to know. I did say that it was the last question, but I just saw a very good question in the chat, so maybe we can just take this one last question. Amalesh Ji from Assam wants to know that what will be the legal, documentary, and procedural responsibility of NGOs after joining CoNGO, if there's any?
No, the legal and the legal documents and evidentiary documents that you submit are documents you submit to the UN, to the ECOSOC. To join CoNGO, all you have to do is show me a letter sent to you by any of the UN agencies which says, this is to inform you of, or congratulations, you have been granted a special consultative status. And I know how that letter looks. I know what a real letter and a fake letter from the UN looks. So if you email me the letter from ECOSOC congratulating you with a status, that's all. And any minute you pay your membership dues, we will send you your membership certificate. So the document that we're waiting for is a letter from ECOSOC, from UNESCO, from ILO, from UNICEF, etc. So the application process for consultative status is very tedious. They will ask you for your financial statements, what are the sources of your funds, your bank statements, the democratic process through which you elect your officers, etc. A copy of your constitution and bylaws, etc. We don't need that at CoNGO because you already gave that to the UN. So when the UN gives you a letter, we are confident that the UN look at all your documents.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bautista, for the incredible insights. Your words not only clarified the procedural pathway toward CoNGO affiliation, but also just how to get the UN consultative status. It also reminded us of the transformative power the civil society holds while meaningfully engaging in multilateral spaces. India has a strong voluntary sector presence, and your talk specifically dealt with how we need to strengthen our efforts for global advocacy and how it's important to remember the strength these UN discussions and these NGOs specifically hold these people in power accountable. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. I'll just briefly summarize the talk for the participants who maybe joined us later on. So the steps are, first of all, you go to the UN website and you check the ECOSOC consultative status application. There's a specific application and the deadline is approaching. It's May 30 or maybe the June 1st week. So I would recommend everyone to, like, after this webinar, go to the website, check what the process is and put in an application. You will need a lot of documents to apply for the application. You will need the registration of your NGO, when it was registered, your bank statements, the proof of where your funds are coming, and some information about your experience. And then once you have that once you get that approval, usually this process takes about a year or sometimes more. And once you have that, you can reach out to CoNGO to join them, who will give you capacity building and all the resources to voice your opinion. And because it's an established association, they always get invitations to keep their perspective instead of having to reach out to keep your perspective. So I hope this was a good summary of our discussion today. But if you have any last remarks, if you have to add anything, Dr. Bautista.
I'm looking at the slide. I think we need to differentiate that. It says there are more than 500 NGOs are members of CoNGO, full members. But if you meant, and there are more than 6,000 NGOs in consultative status with the UN. So just wanted to make sure that those two numbers are yeah. But thank you for including the number of NGOs there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Bautista. This was very
and in the last part, you can join CoNGO with ICSO or any other UN entity accreditation letter.
okay. Okay, that's good to know.
Because we both want the ECOSOC and the observer and the associated status.
All right. So even if you have an observer status with UNFCCC, for example, or UNICEF, you can still be part of CoNGO.
Because you are based in India and you're part of the Asia Pacific region, an accreditation with UNESCA, the Social Council of Asia Pacific, will also allow you to be an associate member. And annually, CoNGO meets in Bangkok for the Regional Committee of Asia Pacific. So CoNGO has a regional committee for Asia Pacific. You may not have the time and the resource to come to New York, Geneva, or Vienna, but you may have the chance to join a meeting in Bangkok. CoNGO meets once a year, and last month, the Regional Committee of CoNGO met in Bangkok. And there were Indian participants.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Bautista. I want to remind all the participants why it's important to have this discussion and why it's important to join UN. When you join these international platforms, you get to shape the discussions which are happening at these platforms. You get a chance to bring your Indian perspective to the diaspora and keep your opinions forward. Thank you for sharing the website. But Dr. Bautista just shared the CoNGO website in the chat. I will pin that for everyone. And we can also send the website after this webinar to the participants who want to check it out. Once again, thank you everyone for joining the webinar and for your patience throughout. And Dr. Bautista for taking out the time from your busy schedule for us. Your life journey is also very inspirational, dedicating your life to this work for 46 years and being in this process for 11 years is amazing. And I look forward to it.
Thank you so much for being such a great support and moderator today. Now I would like to welcome our CEO, Mr. Santosh Gupta, to make some closing remarks for the webinar. He is serving as the CEO and founder and trustee of ISRN. His expertise lies in disaster management, corporate social responsibility and sustainable development and management, organizational development, result-based management and quality assurance of program delivery. Formerly, he was associated with the Ministry of Home Affairs and also with several international organizations and national institutions in different leadership positions. He was also the member of Expert Appraisal Committee, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and member of State Level Vigilance and Monitoring Committee to the Ministry of Rural Development. He has led as a national coordinator of one of the Civil 20 working group, SEVA, and he has also represented ISRN at COP29 at Baku and CSW 69 at United Nations headquarters. With experience of more than 2 decades, I would like to call Mr. Santosh. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhumiji and distinguished guest, member organization and friends. It was very nice, and Dr. Bautista, you have wonderfully elaborated the whole process of the CoNGO membership as well as the ECOSOC status for the voluntary organizations. So as we draw these insights and enriching sessions to a close, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your active participation in the International Conference of Non-Governmental Organization in Consultative Relationship with the United Nations. We know as a name of CoNGO, and all this happened in this webinar. It has been an honor for the Indian Social Responsibility Network to collaborate with CoNGO in bringing together diverse voices committed to sustainable development and community empowerment. So I hopefully this partnership between ISRN and CoNGO for this webinar will be a testament to the power of collaboration. Together, we are fostering a global dialogue that is not only inclusive but also rooted in action at the grassroots organizations. I am also particularly proud of the way of grassroots organizations were involved throughout this event, enriching our discussion and grounding our vision in reality. So, as a mandate of the organization, ISRN, as we move forward, I propose that such webinar become a regular feature. They serve as a vital platform for knowledge exchange, experience sharing, and alliance building. Regular interaction will only strengthen our collective resolve and make our global civil society more cohesive and effective. So, India engagement with international NGOs have been steadily growing, and we at ISRN are committed to expanding these ties. We believe that a globally connected civil societies can accelerate change, bridge culture, regional gaps, and work in towards the sustainable development goals, as Dr. Bautista said. I also request to all participating organizations to register your organization with the CoNGO if you have status of EcoSocs and collaborate with the global organization and committee for the sustainable development. I would like to express gratitude and heartiest thanks to Mr. Liberato C. Bautista personally and on behalf of ISRN member organization and other voluntary organization for his valuable time and coming across from his busy schedule. Let us continue to learn from one another, support each other mission, and amplify the voices of communities as we serve. The journey ahead is long, but together is solitary and shared the purpose. We can make a lasting impact, but not at least I would also like to thanks Bharti Sri Sakti National Vice President Dr. Naina Sargudeji. Naina ji, thank you for joining, and also the member of BSS Chandana Das ji, Jyoti Chauthaiwala ji, and from this team Pune Anjali Deshpande ji, and also the esteemed members of ISRN like Sudama Singh, Dhananjay Rai, Sanjani Trust, Pratap Education Society. I'm not taking every one names, but thanks you to all for joining this wonderful, insightful webinar. And thank you once again to all of you. And we look forward to continue collaboration with CoNGO and all our partners across the globe. Thank you so much. Yeah. Now we can move for a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to call Mr. Samudnaskar, who is our general manager. He's working with ISRN since 2021, and he has completed his master's in social work with a vast experience of nearly 15 years in social work, primarily focusing on the sector of health and education. Represented ISRN at various capacities in various sectors. He represented ISRN at global events at COP29 at Baku and CSW 69 at UN. I would like to hand it over to Samudra for the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Karishma. So good evening, everyone. On behalf of Indian Social Responsibility Network, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for joining us today for this enlightening session. First and foremost, I would like to thank you, our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Liberato Bautista, President of CoNGO, for joining so early in the morning from the United States of America, and for his powerful address and inspiring insights that have enriched our understanding of today's theme, that is International CoNGO webinar, Unlocking Global Opportunities for NGOs, and also for providing valuable information on how to get started with UN EcoSoc and CoNGO registration. A sincere thanks to Ms. Bhumi Sharma, our moderator from the Indian Youth Diplomacy Forum, who is also based in the United States of America. Thank you, Ms. Bhumi, for a skillful steering of the session and for facilitating a thoughtful Q&A segment. I also express my appreciation to Dr. Karishma Nayal from ISRN for the warm welcome, and to our Associate Director, Mr. Ashish Mansaramani, for providing a comprehensive introduction of ISRN and about this webinar. Our gratitude also goes to our CEO, Mr. Santosh Gupta ji, for his guiding words in the closing remarks. Finally, I thank our participants and viewers who have joined us from various organizations. Your presence and engagement made this session truly meaningful. We hope that this session has sensitized you to get your organization affiliated with the UN ECOSOC. So stay connected with us for the webinar recording, key takeaways, and event highlights, which are coming soon in all our ISRN platforms. Thank you so much once again, and wish you all.
Thank you, Sambhu sir. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Libretto. I hope your morning was as impactful as you've made our evening. Thank you, Bhumi. Thank you, all the ISRN team and everyone who joined us today. Thank you so much. We may also
Namaste, Dr.
have
Libretto.
so we say namaskar. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Namaskar. Thank you.
For part of this. Thanks.
Thank
So
you.
all of our organization members are saying starting. Thank you now.
Bhumi, let's connect New York, Bhumi.
Yeah, for sure. I'm based in Manhattan right now. Would love to meet you.
Okay. Bye.
Also,
Bye.
so
Thank
before
you.
leaving, I'm so sorry. Before leaving, can we have everybody's videos on so we can take some photographs? I would like everybody to.
Karisma, you please remove the slide. Yes, now we can take it.
So if everybody can come in the camera and we can,
नमस्ते नमस्ते धन्यवाद बहुत अच्छा रहा यूजफुल करते बात से
Okay, so now we can take the screenshot.
Okay. Is everyone joining? I will take the picture.
Yeah, so everybody is there. You can check the picture.
Okay. Right. So one or two